All right, today we're here to preview week 8. It's going to be another banger week in college football, a blockbuster week this week. We got crazy matchups, lots of great games coming your way this weekend. And we're going to start it off with LSU at Vanderbilt. Now, I know a lot of people are still going to have that brand bias against Vanderbilt. It's Vanderbilt. We're supposed to beat them. They're the trash. But it's not your granddaddy's Vanderbilt team. This is a good Vanderbilt team. This is a Vanderbilt team that gets after the passer. And Miles Caper has 4.5 sacks on the year. They have 3 sacks a game on average right now. And keeping Garrett Nussmeier upright is going to be key for LSU in this game. They have really been able to attack the passer. And the problem for LSU has been staying on schedule throughout their on offense, and that's not something they've been successful at. That's probably mostly because they can't run the football. I expect that to continue in this game. They have not run the football all year. I don't expect them to be able to do that this weekend. And when you get off schedule and you get yourself in obvious passing downs, that's when Vanderbilt can tee off on you. They did it against Alabama, and I think they're going to continue to do that this weekend. I think LSU is going to have a really tough time beating this Vanderbilt team, and I fundamentally don't trust this LSU offense. I also am not really in love with this LSU defense. I know statistically it's done well. It's the thing that's kept them in games, but I don't know what offense has really challenged them. I mean, that Ole Miss offense challenged them, and they did hold them to 24 points, which I think is a good enough number to win you a football game. The problem is they gave up well over 400 yards, I think 450 yards of offense in that game. The thing that held Ole Miss's offense back a lot in that game is penalties. And, all of the other offenses that LSU's faced have not been good. So I really don't know exactly how good this LSU defense is. Now, I still think it's a solid unit. It's not bad. I'm just saying it's not really been tested to the level that I think Vanderbilt can test them, because I think this Vanderbilt offense is really good with Diego Pavia, and if Vanderbilt doesn't commit the penalties and the turnovers that Ole Miss did in their game, then I think this Vanderbilt offense can put up a lot of points. I think they're going to be able to shut down this LSU offense as well. I don't really see a way in which LSU wins this game, and so that's why I'm going to take Vanderbilt in this game. We'll see how it plays out, but LSU has a tough stretch coming up with this Vanderbilt game. They've got Alabama coming up on their schedule soon, and this is kind of this next 3 or 4 weeks is really going to tell us what LSU is, and I just don't think they're very good. I think Vanderbilt gets the job done this weekend, and I think LSU is going to find themselves on the outs in SEC contention and on the playoff field when all is said and done after October. Let's stay in the SEC. Talk about probably the biggest matchup of this weekend, and that's Ole Miss at Georgia. Premier matchup. I think the biggest key to this game is, can Ole Miss stop the run? Now, Georgia has not been a very good rushing offense so far this season. They're 7th best in the SEC, which isn't up to the Georgia standard. It's only 185 yards a game rushing the football, but they've stayed committed to it. It's what they really want to be doing. When the Georgia offense has had success, they've had success running the ball. They really would like to just pound the rock, not put Gunnar Stockton in tough situations where he has to throw the ball downfield. That's what Georgia wants to do on offense. They just haven't been able to do that as effectively as they want to so far this season. The thing about Ole Miss is they have one of the worst rushing defenses in the SEC right now. They're 14th in the SEC, which is good for 96th in the country. It's just not been good enough. The one team they really stood up to running the ball was LSU, and we just talked about how shit LSU's run offense is. So I don't have high expectations for this Ole Miss defense stopping the run, but that's going to be the key to this game. If Ole Miss stops the run, this game is going to be over for Georgia. I don't know what they can do on offense if Ole Miss shuts the run down. But if you are in third and obvious passing situations, Ole Miss doesn't really get after the passer. That's going to be true for Georgia as well. In the pass protection, I think both teams are going to hold up just fine because neither defensive line really puts that pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And so I think that will open up some opportunities for Georgia, because that has been one of the problems for them, is that when they're trying to push the ball downfield, do they trust their offensive line to pass protect for them long enough for Gunnar Stockton to get the ball off. That has been an issue for them at times, but Ole Miss doesn't really attack you in that way. But the flip side of that is if they can't get after Trinidad Chambliss, I think their offense can be really dynamic if you give him time to throw. And I just trust their offense fundamentally more than I trust the Georgia offense. And I don't trust really either defense, but particularly I don't trust this Georgia defense in the first half. I don't trust a lot of defense in this game, but I just like what I get out of Ole Miss's offense more in this game. I think the other key factor is Ole Miss has been one of the most penalized teams in the country. And I mean, almost 8 penalties a game for almost 75 yards a game. That is really not a good way to set your offense up to have success. And it doesn't typically get better when you go on the road. So that is a problem for Ole Miss. If they can control the penalties and stop the run, I think they walk away with this game. I don't like what I've seen from Georgia all season. I think they've gotten away with a lot, and I just don't think they're going to continue to get away with it in this game. I am going to take Ole Miss to win this game, but penalties and Georgia's rush offense are the ways that Georgia will find a way to win this game if they do. But I will take Ole Miss to get it done. We're going to stick to the SEC for one more game. One of the country's best rivalries, the third Saturday in October. It is Tennessee at Alabama. And Tennessee is a team that really gets after the quarterback. That is something that Alabama has struggled. They've really struggled in pass protection, particularly their running backs were struggling in pass protection last week against Missouri. They have not been great at keeping Ty Simpson on his feet, but it hasn't mattered. They've still been able to have success throwing the football, and their moderate success in running the ball. But if Tennessee can get Alabama off track, off schedule, that's how you get stops on third down. That has been Alabama's MO is to keep themselves on schedule, get to third down, and convert on third down and really possess the football. And ironically, Tennessee on the flip side is not a team that loves to possess the ball. So I think this is a big clash of styles in this game. Tennessee really wants to move the ball at a frantic pace, and that's not what Alabama does. And so where Tennessee could have problems is if you have quick 3-and-outs or just quick drives, and then Alabama possesses the ball, they're really going to wear down on that defense because that Tennessee's defense is going to be on the field a lot on Saturday, and I think that could be a big problem for Tennessee. Also, Tennessee's defense just hasn't been that good. I know they're missing their best 2 corners, and that is a problem for them, but they are not going to be back this week. And I don't know how they slow down this Alabama passing attack outside of the potential of them just absolutely bum rushing the quarterback and just getting home and keeping him on the ground. That's how Tennessee has to win this game. They also, I just think, frankly, are going to have to win a shootout. If Tennessee wins this game, it's because they have been hitting bombs. And Joey Aguilar and Brazil, that connection has to be key for them. He's going to have to go off in this game the same way that they had a few years ago. And I just don't see it. I just trust this Alabama team. I trust what they've been doing. I see the vision. I think they're going to get this done. I think Alabama is one of the best teams in the country, and I just don't trust Tennessee's defense far enough in this game to present any threat to this Alabama offense. I think they're going to walk away with the victory here for the Crimson Tide. And another big rivalry that we want to touch on this weekend is USC at Notre Dame. They're traveling across the country after a huge win against Michigan. And the question you have for USC is, can they be the most physical team on the field for a second week in a row? Because that's what they were against Michigan. They bullied Michigan on both sides of the football. And if they can do that, that's the blueprint for USC. So if they can do that again, then I think they can walk away with a win against Notre Dame. I think The problem for USC is that Notre Dame has a few more weapons than what Michigan has. And that in particular comes in the form of CJ Carr. He can really sling the rock. And if USC can put pressure on him, I mean, they already have 20 sacks on the year as a team. So that's the key, is if they can put some pressure on CJ Carr. If they can stop the run and get pressure on CJ Carr, they are going to have to win this game through the line of scrimmage. That's what they did against Michigan. If they can do that against Notre Dame, who has had great offensive line play in the past, their offensive line has not lived up to that standard so far this year. But I do trust Marcus Freeman and his coaching staff to develop that offensive line. So we'll see how much development they've had in the weeks that no one's been paying attention to them. So if this Notre Dame offensive line can hold up in the point of attack against USC's defensive line, then that would be key for them in this game. I know they're missing Wayman Jordan, but King Miller had a great game against Michigan. I think that could continue. I really like what this USC team is right now. I don't trust the secondary, though. So they are going to have to get home if they can force those third and obvious situations. They're going to have to play aggressive defense. Because there are going to be holes. I think they're going to give up some explosive plays in this game. But I just trust USC to score enough points to win this game. Now, if they give up 50 points, then it doesn't matter. But I like where USC's at right now. And call me crazy, but I think they're going to walk in to South Bend and get this done. I think they're going to do it. We'll see, though. And then the nightcapper this weekend is the Holy War. Another fantastic rivalry game. Love a good midseason rivalry weekend that we're seeming to get this weekend. The Holy War is probably the most underrated rivalry in the country. It always delivers. Utah was absolute garbage last year, but this game was still fantastic. And it's this year, you don't have that problem. This year, you've got two teams, top 25 teams, two teams that are competing for the Big 12 right now. And it's really hard to find a more evenly matched game than you're going to get this weekend. I mean, you look up and down the board on most statistical metrics, you find Utah, and you'll find BYU right there. And it's going to be a fantastic game. I think a really hard game to predict because, first of all, anything can happen. It's the Holy War. Anything can happen. But just how close these teams match up is it makes a really hard game to predict. And I think the key to this matchup is going to be Utah's defensive line. John Henry Daly has just gotten after guys. And he has 8 sacks so far this season, which is third best in the country. BYU is going to have to find a way to slow him down and give Bachmeier time to throw. The other concern maybe for Utah is when you have that aggressive pass rush, when you have guys that are getting after the quarterback, sometimes that opens running lanes for your quarterback, lanes to escape. And if Utah doesn't maintain good rush integrity, that could really allow Bachmeier to leak out and find running lanes. He's a pretty good athlete back there at quarterback, just like Devin Dampier is. And so I just think this is going to be an electric game. I'm going to go with Utah. I really like what Devin Dampier is doing right now. I like where this offense is headed. I'm just going to trust it. I'm going to trust Kyle Whittingham, who I think is a fantastic coach. And I don't have a great reason for that. I just fundamentally trust Utah, but I have no faith that prediction is going to come true. But I will trust it for now. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely a game you need to be watching. It's going to be great, fantastic atmosphere in that game. Absolutely check that game out. Next, we're going to talk about some games that have upset alert potential, and we're going to start with Friday night game. Louisville is traveling to Miami. And this is a game that was pretty close last season, but Louisville, their offense just hasn't looked as sharp as it did last year. And I really like what Miami's defense has been doing so far this season. Friday night, things can get weird. I really love Jeff Brom as a coach. He's a great offensive mind. So if he can find a way to make things click, if he can find a way to attack this Miami defense, then maybe there's a way. But I just think Miami's for real this season. So I'm gonna put a 4 out of 10 on the upset alert concern meter. And let's stick to the ACC and talk about Georgia Tech at Duke. And I think Duke is a slight favorite actually in this game. So it's not technically an upset in terms of point spread, but you know, Georgia Tech's closing in on that top 10. So we're going to talk about it like it's an upset. And I'm going to put a 9 out of 10 on this game. When Darian Mensah and this Duke offense get rolling, it rolls. I mean, he can make some flashy plays. He can make some highlight plays. This Duke offense can really get things done. I have questions about whether they can avoid the turnovers. You saw it in that Illinois game. They just turned the ball over like mad, and that can be a real problem for Duke. But if they don't turn the ball over and this offense is clicking, they can beat almost any team in the country. So I would be concerned if I were Yellow Jacket this weekend. I am going to stop just short of calling this game for Duke just because I like what Georgia Tech's offensive line can bring. And if they can run the football, then that gives you a chance in any game that you play. So I like Georgia Tech a lot. This is kind of the game I feel like you've had circled for a while as the trip up game. Like Georgia Tech's schedule is pretty dang easy this season, but this Duke game is the game that can trip you up and can get you stumbling. And I would like to see Georgia Tech avoid that this weekend. So we'll see how that plays out. Then we're going to head to the SEC to quickly talk about Oklahoma at South Carolina. I think the question here is John Mateer ready? Because if he looks like he did last weekend against Texas, then anything can happen in this game. I don't really like what South Carolina has done offensively, and Oklahoma's defense is pretty damn good. So I don't expect South Carolina to explode in this game offensively. The question really becomes, can Oklahoma move the football? If their offense has come back together, if John Mateer is healthy, gets a full week of actual practice and prep, then maybe we see this Oklahoma offense kind of come back together. And if we see that, then I think Oklahoma runs away with this game. If we don't see that, then anything can happen. That stadium, when you get a good close game in October, it is Cocktober, so you never know what can happen in that atmosphere. But I think if John Mateer is back to form, then Oklahoma will walk away with this game. I am going to put a 6 out of 10 on the concern meter. Then I want to talk Big 12 briefly. Let's talk about Texas Tech at Arizona State. And this is, again, another quarterback injury concern game. Is Sam Leavitt going to play? As if Sam Leavitt is back, this Arizona State offense can really click a lot better when he's there. No offense to Jeff Sims, but he's just not the guy. Sam Leavitt can get this offense rolling a little bit much better. And I do have questions about what happened to that Arizona State defense last week. I do really like Utah's offense, but 42 points is a whole hell of a lot of points. So we'll see. So if Sam Leavitt comes back and he plays at home, you already have 2 losses. You start looking around and you start saying, if we want to have the success that we wanted to have coming into the season, we need to buckle down and we need to win this game. You could get a little wounded animal mode out of Arizona State. So I am going to put a 7 out of 10 on this game. I just think Texas Tech is that freaking good. I think they look like a machine right now. And so that's why this is only a 7 out of 10. Because that's how much I respect Texas Tech and what they're doing right now. But if Arizona State hits wounded animal mode, they can really light it up with Sam Leavitt back there if he returns this weekend. Last game I want to talk about is Missouri at Auburn. And I kind of see this game going one of two ways. And that's I see Auburn coming out, playing with their hair on fire, and finally catching the breaks that they've been missing so many weeks. It seems like they are just due for a break, and they haven't gotten one, and I think it could come this week. Now, the other thing I could see happening in this game is all of those breaks that they haven't get has just weighed and weighed and weighed on them, and they crumble, and this is the week that it all kind of comes crumbling down. The bottom falls out, and they just get blasted in this game. I think those are the two things that could happen in this game. I see it going no other way, and I am going to put a 10 out of 10 upset concern. I don't like this spot for Missouri. I don't like it at all, but I think this game is about Auburn. This is a really important week for Auburn. I think if they can't get this done this week, then this Auburn team is going to collapse. And I think you might be seeing it this week. This is about the culture. This is about the culture for Auburn. If the culture for Auburn is strong, I feel like they can come out and find a way to win this game. If not, you're going to see the same collapse that you saw in the second half of that Georgia game, and you might get it the whole game. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Auburn will find a way, but man, they just seem due. They just seem due. That's what I'll say about that game. Anyway, that's all I have for you. Let me know what you disagree with, who you have in the rest of these games, and thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you next time.